I got this radiator back in. It was a little bit of a challenge, but it wasn't too bad. And you can see I also put this case on as well. So the way I did it, so this was just the radiator. I slid the radiator in. It was a little bit tight getting past this and getting past this. But basically, so the radiator comes down and it actually, this part of the radiator slides into here. Same thing on this side. This is the radiator. It slides down into here. This is obviously the condenser. This is already going to be on the car. After you do that, I had my bolts here. I put, one bolt there, one bolt there, and these are obviously pretty low torque. You don't go tight on these because it's just plastic. And then after I've bolted the radiator to the condenser and everything, I went ahead and I put on this plastic cover. So I put it on, bolted it there, bolted it there. You do have to make sure that this part splines in, see that? Same thing on this side. Right there, it has to go on this side of it. And then after you do that, you have to make sure that this clips on here, here, and here. This was actually kind of a struggle. I had to get a screwdriver. Let's see. I had a screwdriver on one end, and then I had a piece of some pliers on the other end, and I basically just pried it. You can wiggle these. I basically just pried it, and then I forced it in. Just be careful with that because you can break it if you're not careful. And there's probably a better way of doing that, but I didn't know the best way, so that's how I did it, and I got lucky the plastic did not break, but be very careful on that. I forgot to show one last bolt. It's a bolt that holds two hoses here. I'm just going to show this clip of when I was disassembling it, just to show you where it goes and where it went. These hoses, I don't know what they are, to right here, and it had one of these. It was doing that, and actually it was doing this, and it sat on the hoses. I went ahead and I left my shoe underneath here because now that I got all of this weight on here, I don't want this whole thing sagging down like that. This radiator does have a sensor right here. This is obviously the pigtail the one pigtail right here. It clips in right here, here, and then right there. So it clips in at 3 places. I plugged in this main power wire. It clips in there, there, and let's see. Yeah, it goes this way. I had my wire. I just put it to the side over here. That's where mine was stored. I don't know where yours is gonna. I don't know. That's where it goes. So you should be able to find it. And then there was a tiny hose dangling right there. See that? And I pressed it in. This thing right here. Pressed it in right there. The one with the blue thing. And it just goes this way. So yeah, don't forget about that tiny little hose thing right there. The next part is going to be this one. So you don't actually have to take these off. I did on one of them. The one right here. You can actually leave these on, and then you have to take the ones up top off. So I went ahead and I reinstalled this one. You can see the orientation there. And these ends, see that how there's only one bolt? So these ends are actually a different shape, see that? And it clips in. So it goes exactly like that. See that clip thing, how it goes like that? And then you got the one bolt. So yeah, now that I got just the bottom ones installed, we're ready to put this thing on here. Okay, I lied. You do not want to put both of these things on. You can get away with having one of them on, but you cannot have both. So you see this? This thing is actually going to go into here on the radiator. And it holds it like that. And then you just bolt it like that. Actually, I think this is probably upside down, but yeah, something like that. And then it obviously bolts to right there. So in order to do this next step, see these things? These things actually go into the radiator. This is obviously the one for the bottom, and then the one for the top. is right here. I have that in. See that? Just goes right in. And obviously it's the same one for that side also. So I just finished a really hard step. So the thing with the radiator that I was showing you, that was actually pretty hard, but I got that done. And then I got this obviously mounted, and I have this mounted. You have to mount these together because these bolts are actually shared. See that? They go through both of them. So the way I did this is, so I mounted this thing first, obviously. I got a bolt here, and I leave these loose for right now. You got bolts here for the intercooler, and there, and then there, and there. So it's, you know, two for the intercoolers, so 4. After I did that, I got this into position, and this step was actually pretty hard. You have to have 2 people when you do this. Basically, I had someone hold this up, and they had this bolt ready to thread in, while I had to lift this up, and I had to pull really hard, just lift it up, and then they were able to get these all in. See how you got 1, 2, 3, and then there's another one, you know, yep, 3, 4, and then obviously you're seeing this one here as well. But yeah, you just lift up, and then you have your friend put all these bolts in, just thread them in, and then this side too, thread these in, you know, same thing, 4, and then a 5th one right there, and that's obviously a Torx, kind of weird, but that's how they do it. And then yeah, once everything is aligned, then you can go ahead and tighten the bolts down there, and then tighten the bolts up here. Before I reassemble this car completely, I want to test it out. I want to start it up and make sure it's running good before I just do a whole bunch of steps that I have to undo. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go ahead and put the radiator hoses on, so just these 2, you know, one going here, one to there, the other one going here to there, and then I'm going to put this on. You know, we got a sensor there. I'm going to put this onto here. And then I'm going to change my oil. Obviously, you want to have a fresh oil change. I'm going to start it up and make sure it's running good. And after I can verify that everything's good, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue on reassembling this motor. This car is ready to start for the first time. I've topped this thing off with oil. The thing calls for, I think it's like 8.9 liters. So, you know, kind of a lot. And then I put this thing on. You can see it's just up here, kind of bending. Same thing on this side. And I plugged in this sensor. And so this thing is ready to start. Technically, I don't have this vacuum thing plugged in. Let's see. Yeah, that thing. Yeah, technically I don't have this plugged in, but I think I'll be fine for just this initial start. Obviously, it's not going to be running for very long. Don't forget to clear your check engine light codes. I plugged in my scanner after starting the engine, and I was seeing these codes, and I got scared for a little bit, but then I realized, like, you know, I didn't even clear my codes yet, so I cleared my codes. I started up the engine again, and everything was looking good. These codes did not return, so my car was good. I did not show it in the video, but I went ahead and I started this car, and I checked the codes, and I cleared the codes. So far, everything's looking good. I cleared the codes did not come back, and obviously I'm talking about the timing codes. It wasn't running super amazing because it's not fully put back together as you can expect, but yeah, this car's running good. The engine's running good, the timing's running good. The timing codes are not coming back, so this tells me that this job was a success and this car's ready to just put back together completely. So first thing I got to do is just take this thing off, and then I'll go from there. The next things I'm putting on is I'm putting these things on. I didn't put that one on yet. You want to put this side on first, and then this side. It's kind of hard. It's not too bad though. You kind of just basically reach your hand up on the bottom to get the bottom one in. And I did the bottom one first. And then to get the top part, I reached my hand. Just like, see that? Just fished my hand in there. And then got to where basically I could, you kind of, it's honestly pretty tight. You're going to struggle a little bit on this one, but yeah, I just fished my hand back here And I was able to just control the back of this black piece. And then once I got both sides to snap in, obviously I got these to snap in. And this is what it looks like. It has 4 of these snap type connections all the way around. Zip to 1 right there, you know, 2 on this side, 2 on that side, and that's how that works. All right, let me show you what I'm working on now. I'm just trying to get this part on. This would be a good time to replace the air filter if you need to. I just barely did that on this one. It's just screws all the way across, you know, all the way down. Obviously, you know, filter. This goes, so you can see these bolts. They're gonna bolt into here, and it goes that way. See that? Yeah, that's how that goes. You don't want to have it like the other way. Like if you have it this way, you know, that's incorrect. Like, you know, like this way, for example. Like that's completely incorrect. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's incorrect. You can kind of tell because like the bolt is not lining up. It's kind of unfortunate though because it goes right in, but when you go this way, it's kind of a tight fit. It doesn't want to go in, but you can tell that when you do get it in, the bolts will line up. But before I do that, I want to put the horns back on. Turns out, remember these bolts we tightened? Turns out you're supposed to bolt this to it. Yeah, see that? See how it has that? So that top hole there, that's for that T30, and then that bottom one there, that was that E-Torx. And it goes like that. See that? Ah, it doesn't want to focus. Yeah, you can see that. That's how it goes. And then it's the same thing on that side as well with that other horn. So I'm just running this wire right here. This wire that is like with the horn, it has 2 pigtails. One of them plugs into there, you know, for the intake. The other one plugs into this wire. This is actually, I believe it's for the hood. The hood sensor. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, see that right there. So yeah, that second pigtail is for the hood. I ran this hood cable. This was actually a little bit tricky. I wasn't exactly sure how to fish it through. One thing, you got to make sure you don't go through here because you're going to have this thing going through here. You know what I mean? Going through there, and you don't want it interfering with that. So notice how I actually have this thing ran this way, so it comes up here, and then it's just completely underneath where my finger is. It's underneath. Okay, you can see it right there. The one that's moving around. Yeah, you can see I basically just ran it underneath that. Push it down there. And then this part gives you like a little bit of an access port. And then I also plugged in the hood thing. This thing is pretty straightforward. You can get it with a pick. I'll show you the pick that I used. I unfortunately couldn't get a video of me doing it. It was a tiny bit of a challenge, but it wasn't so bad. But it is very straightforward for how it works. I basically just used this little pick here. And I just kind of, you know, did it this way. Just kind of, you know, yeah, just did it this way. I'm going to go ahead and secure this cord to here, probably with just strong zip ties. Or I could even use electrical tape. Obviously there's already some here, but I don't want this just dangling like that. It makes me nervous. There is this, probably an ambient temperature sensor, I'm guessing. I don't know if this goes anywhere. I have no idea, honestly. I'm just winging it. So I went ahead and I put this cover on, this cover on, this cover on. These covers, they have bolts. They bolt right into the bolts down there. So the bolt that holds the coil in, these bolts go into that. And you don't want to tighten these that much. They don't need to be that tight. They will break. I'm obviously still waiting on these O-rings. So I unfortunately cannot assemble this part anymore. If I wasn't waiting for these O-rings, then I'd be able to just, put that in there. Put this intake on right here. These parts would go in there. And then at that point, I would do this one last. This goes like that. Oh, this is probably the wrong side. This one would go in here, and it would go like that. And you would do it in that order too. You can't really do it out of order, because if you do one, and if you try to do it out of order, it's going to be in your way, so you got to just take it off and do it in the correct order. I'm going to go ahead and put this bumper on. You might have noticed in the previous clip, I had that panel installed right here, right there. I forgot that panel is actually covering these bolt holes right there and there, and that's for the bumper. So you got to do the bumper first. So I went ahead and I took it off. One thing about this bumper, so on the passenger side, we got a electrical connection, probably for the fog light on this side, and we got a hose connection for the headlight washer fluid. So the washer fluid runs through that. And then on this side, all we have is just the electrical connection. There's really not anything. Oh, look at that. We also have that. I didn't notice that. We got a connection there. We also have it on that side as well. I'm going to do a little bit more of a deeper look on this to see if there's more that I'm missing. But you can kind of see. Yep, we got the connection there, the connection there. This car was driven with the suspension being all sagging down, because this car also needs suspension work, and you can see it just tore this up, so it's really sad that they did that. You can see I've got the bumper started but not completely put on. So what I've done, so I put the bumper on, got it lined up right here. It's a little bit of a finesse, but you can do it. Obviously got it on this side as well. Put the one bolt in just to hold it, and then from there I was able to pull this part out, and I was able to access the the sensor right there. Not sensor, the light right there. And then this one right here. I unfortunately had to use a zip tie because the pigtail was busted, which I hate that, but it's better than nothing. But yeah, I got this zip tied, and then I was able to also do that washer fluid hose. The washer fluid hose was actually kind of hard. I had to kind of bend it out of the way more, and you can't even see it, but yeah, the washer fluid hose. Let's see, where does it come from? Okay, right here. So the washer fluid hose coming through here, and yeah, I was able to get it in there. It wasn't that bad. And then obviously on the other side, you're gonna have this sensor, or this light as well, and this pigtail thing as well. So I wish I could show more detail about putting together this bumper, but the person who worked on this before me literally lost all the bolts. It's kind of a mess. So we're gonna have to just, buy more bolts, or just send this to a body guy or something. But yeah, obviously, I'm guessing it's pretty typical, bolt there, bolt there. I don't know what was going on there. And obviously, if you're this far, you took yours off, so you should have an idea of how that goes. And obviously, there would be a splash guard here and a wheel well, but, yeah, this thing's kind of a mess, honestly. It's kind of a joke. You may be thinking that I forgot about this bolt here, but the person who worked on this before me lost that bolt as well. So obviously, now would be a good time for you to stick that bolt in and torque it down. I got my replacement O-ring, so I was able to put the hose on. I was able to put the coolant hose on right there, and also right here. You can see that this has got a clip right here that clips onto this. Like if you look at that, see how it has that mark on there? So you can tell it wants to go there. So clip it there, and then the same thing over there. Same thing right here. You can't really see it until let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, this hose had the same thing, same mark. and then it looks like it wants to sit right there. There's a couple more, like see this? Like this obviously wants to clip somewhere. So does this, but I don't even know where that goes. And so I'm not gonna deal with it. You guys can do whatever you want with that. I'm sticking this thing on now, and then after that, I'm gonna go ahead and stick this thing on, and I'll see how that goes. I'm getting this thing put on. The way I've done this is I went ahead and I put this one on first, and then you cannot forget this is the one that has that vacuum line. See that? So basically, because I only have the one side in, I'm able to move it up like this, and I'm able to just really I have enough room to easily stick this one on, and I've got that one on. And now I'm gonna put the sensor in, plug that in, you know, the pigtails right here, and then I'm gonna get this hose into here, and then I'm just going to get the two, they're not really bolts, but the thing that slide in here and here. Yeah, they're right there. So yep, let's do that. I got these things on. It was actually a little bit of a challenge. The way that I had to do this was I had to get this thing, I had to stick it through here, but not seat it on there. Don't do that yet. Basically, so I stick it through here, and then I sat this side in, got that into position and locked it down, and then I locked this one down, and then obviously the same thing on this side. You'll struggle with it, but it's not too bad. And then I guess I did have to take this piece off. I didn't realize that this piece is in the way, so you got to put this one on after you do these hoses. If you made it this far into the video, then congratulations, your car is fixed. You obviously still need to top off the antifreeze, and you're going to need to burp all of the air out of it. You got to be careful not to overheat your engine and blow it up, you know, after all of this work you just did. So yeah, congratulations, your car is done.